Welcome back, friends and family of the internet and fellow watchers on the wall. It's been an entire 5 days since I've sat behind this computer, and oh, how I have missed you guys from the bottom of my heart. I have watched what is happening in Washington State, in Oregon, in total shock and disbelief. Friend, if you believe that this is an atmospheric river that just picked up a little bit too much moisture due to climate change, and that it's completely, utterly innocent and just Mother Nature, this video is not for you. This video is going to show you a document that was written in the 1990s by the military saying that they would claim weather by 2025. No, friends, I'm not joking. They talk about the technology that they would need to use weather modification and weather modification techniques to control the weather and make it look like it was a natural occurrence, blaming it on something other than military, specifically the United States Air Force. Now, that hurts my heart. Why? Because I actually have a son training in the weather program in the United States Air Force. We talk about this extensively. It's well above his pay grade, I might say. But I've told him, keep your ear to the ground because eventually, as you move up through ranks, son, somebody's going to let you in on their very well kept secret. We're even going to tie this into HARP. Now, friends, some of you may go, this is a conspiracy. If you give me 20 minutes, you will walk away with going, I've been lied to my entire life. Otherwise, have a blessed day. Adios. To the rest of you guys, welcome back. Don't forget, hype it if you can, like, comment, please share this out on all of your social media platforms because what just happened in Washington State and Oregon was not natural weather. My name is Samantha Starkey. I was an educator by training. I'm a homesteader by choice, but I just published a book, Growing Under a Poison Sky, with a good friend of mine that happens to live in Oregon. And Leslie and her husband went without power, water, and sewage capabilities for numerous days due to this atmospheric river. So we're going to get into it. I'll link how you can purchase the book. Please consider it. It is basically it's an entry guide into what they're doing with the weather. It proves to you with patents what they're doing with the weather. And then we give you how you can clean your soil and your water and your body from the toxins that are being dumped on us. Friends, this is what's happening due to the atmospheric river in Washington. This is horrific. Watch this. This broke my heart. One, because I have a daughter that lives in Seattle and actually toured a lot of these places just 11 months ago. That is it's horrific. Look at that. Look how much water it has sit down. Okay. With no further to do, let me jump in and prove for the ones of you who are still sitting there thinking this is nothing but a conspiracy. Let me just go ahead and give it to you. All right. Weather as a force multiplier, owning the weather in 2025. In 1995 and 1996, a study began from the U.S. Air Force Dreams of Future Weather Warfare Techniques. It's based basically, hypothetically, on what could happen by what year, friends and family? 2025. This was a directive from the Chief of Staff of the U.S. Air Force to examine the concepts, capabilities, and technologies the United States will require to remain the dominant air and space force in the future. This was presented June 17th, 1996. The report was produced in the Department of Defense School Environment of Academic Freedom and in the interest of advancing concepts related to national defense. The views expressed in this report are those of the authors and do not reflect the official policy or position of the U.S. Air Force, Department of Defense, or the United States government, right? It goes, any similarities to real people or events other than specifically cited are unintentional and are just for illustration. In 2025, the U.S. Aerospace Forces can own the weather by capitalizing on emerging technologies and focusing development of those technologies to war-fighting applications. The capability offers the warfighter tools to shape the battle space in ways never before possible. It goes on, talks about, that weather modification offers a dilemma not unlike the splitting of the atom. While some segments of society will always be reluctant to examine controversial issues such as weather modification, the tremendous military capabilities that could result from this field are ignored at our own peril. Well, please understand this. They didn't ignore it. They said that we could use weather modification for several things. We could degrade enemy forces. How? How could we degrade enemy forces, friends and family? Well, we could use precipitation enhancement, cloud seeding. We could flood lines of communication, reduce their ability to speak to each other, decrease comfort level and morale. We could do something called storm enhancement. We could, deny them precipitation so there was no fresh water and there would be a drought. We could disrupt communications and radar, disable and destroy space assets. We could use fog and cloud removal by denying concealment and increase vulnerability. Yeah. Yeah, this is what we could do. And if we want to enhance friendly forces, we could maintain visibility, maintain comfort level, choose battle space environments. We could improve communication reliability. Yeah, didn't you know that? We could increase concealment by using fog and cloud generation. I hope all of you right now are remembering at the end of 2024, and I have videos, I will link them in the description of this video along with everything that I show you. I did videos on the unnatural fog at the end of 2024. At the beginning of 2025. Do not forget the UAVs and the drones that took over the skies at the end of 2024. All of that is in this right here. Here is the PDF. This is what the military came up with, friends. And I have written down a few things that you and I need to go over. So hang with me. I'm going to try to get through it as fast as possible. I already read you this part, right? I showed you this part on the other page, showed you why. It says, current technologies that will mature over the next 30 years will offer anyone who has the necessary resources the ability to modify weather patterns. To what, friends and family? Let's all type it in comment. To modify weather patterns. You're not a conspiracy theorist because you know how to research. You know how to read. The military put this out in June of 1996. 3 years after I graduated high school, they typed this out. Resources, it says, will offer anyone who has the necessary resources the ability to modify weather patterns. It says current demographic, economic, and environmental trends will create global stresses that provide the necessary for many countries or groups to turn weather modification ability into capability. In the US, weather modification will likely become a national security policy with both domestic and international applications. So they have admitted that by 2025, weather modification within the United States will become part of our national security policy. both domestic, that means anywhere within the continental US, Alaska, and or Hawaii, as well as our international applications over China, over Saudi Arabia. Our government will pursue a policy depending on its interest at various levels. These levels could include unilateral actions, participation in a security framework such as NATO, membership in an international organization such as the UN, or participation in a coalition. Assuming that in 2025, our national security strategy includes weather modification, its use in our national military strategy will naturally follow. In this paper, we show that appropriate application of weather modification can provide battle space dominance to a degree never before imagined. Okay, thanks for letting us know, military. Now we're on page 9. This is chapter 1, introduction. Again, this will be linked in description if you'd like to print it out, read it yourself, feel free. This is a scenario. Imagine that in 2025, the U.S. is fighting a rich but now consolidated, politically powerful drug cartel in South America. Let me read that for you one more time. Imagine that in 2025, the United States is fighting a rich, politically powerful drug cartel in South America. What has Trump been doing lately? Blowing up what? Cartel drug boats. Okay. The cartel has purchased hundreds of Russian and Chinese-built fighters that have successfully thwarted our attempts to attack their production facilities. With their local numerical superiority and interior lines, the cartel is launching more than 10 aircraft for every one of ours. In addition, the cartel is using the French system of operation spot, positioning, and tracking imagery systems, which in 2025 are capable of transmitting near real-time multispectral imagery with meter resolution. Okay. Meteorological analysis reveals that South America typically has afternoon thunderstorms on a daily basis throughout the year. Our intelligence has confirmed that cartel pilots are reluctant to fly in near thunderstorms. Therefore, our Weather Force Support Element, which is part of the Commander-in-Chief's Air Operations Center, is tasked to forecast storm paths and trigger or intensify thunderstorm cells over critical target areas. I'm just saying. Wouldn't it be interesting, just say, if Samantha found some paperwork that said that Washington State, specifically some of the areas hardest hit by this atmospheric river that just went through in December of 2025, what if Samantha found paperwork from, say, the year 2017 saying that area was going to be the first smart area of Washington State? I mean, what if I found that and wanted to share it with you? Maybe you could hang around until I get there. Yeah, I'm going to show you how interesting this information is. Okay, so it keeps going. Then it says in 2025, uninhabited aerospace vehicles, UAVs or drones, are routinely used for weather modification operations, right? Like we don't even need pilots anymore, friends and family. By 2025, we'll send a UAV straight up into that sky and pepper you with whatever amazing chemical we choose. By the way, they're listed in our book, Growing Under a Poison Sky. I'll tell you what each of those chemicals can do to you and your family, your soil, and your livestock. You'd be shocked. So anyway, these UAVs can be guided with near real-time information from a network sensor array. Prior to the attack, which is coordinated with forecasted weather conditions, the UAVs begin cloud generating, and then seeding operations to disperse a cirrus shield to deny enemy visual infrared surveillance. At the same time, they're going to use a microwave heater to create a localized disruption, right? Yeah, so we're gonna use a heater. Now, in case you didn't know, there is a large array of ELF. It's called extremely low frequency antennas located in Alaska and several other places around the world. In fact, the thumbnail for this video was all the different HARP. Yes, you heard me, HARP around the world that can be used like microwave heaters. Mm-hmm. So, they go on, you know, that they'll have satellite aided tracking that will be wildly available in 2025. There'll also other cloud seeding operations to cause a developing thunderstorm to intensify over the target, severely limiting the enemy's capability to defend. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. I'm just saying. So they said required capability. Like, what do we actually need to make in 1996? Was it six? Yeah, 1996. This to happen by 2025. What would actually need to happen? It says, as we leap technology into the 21st century, we will be able to see the enemy day or night in any weather and go after him relentlessly. A global, precise, real time, robust, systematic weather modification capability would provide warfighting CINCs with a powerful force multiplier to achieve military objectives. Since weather will be common to all possible futures, a weather modification capability would be universally applicable and other utility across the entire spectrum of conflict. Mm-hmm. The capability of influencing the weather, even on a small scale, could change it from a force degrader to a force multiplier, right? It says people have always wanted to be able to do something about the weather. We're always complaining, right? In the US, as early as 1839, newspaper archives tell of people with serious and creative ideas on how to make it rain. In 1957, the president's adversary Committee on Weather Control recognized the military potential of weather modification, warning in their report that it could become more important as a weapon than the atomic bomb. They knew, they've always known what they could do with the weather. And even though I'm like joking and being upbeat, that's just kind of my personality. What they have done to people in the state of Washington and the state of Oregon right now is criminal, because I'm going to show you what they've actually done. It says in 1977, the United Nations General Assembly adopted you guys know, a resolution prohibiting the hostile use of environmental modification techniques. So if this isn't possible, if weather cannot be used as a weapon, then why did the United Nations in 1977 come up with a resolution saying that we couldn't do it? I'm serious. If you're one of those people that are fixing to be rude enough to type in my comment section, this is a conspiracy, you answer that question for me. And then you and I can have a conversation. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really serious. Because the United Nations made everybody refrain from any military or other hostile use of weather modification, which could result in widespread, long-lasting, or severe effects. While these two events have not halted the pursuit of weather modification research, they have significantly inhibited its pace in development associated technologies. No, it hasn't. It kept everything hidden. Okay, so let's keep going because it's very long, and I don't want to spend all day reading to you what you can go read yourself. I want to point out a few important things before we move on. So let me find, that's page 6, 7. All right, so then it starts talking about system description in chapter 3. Like, What are we going to need to make this happen? Wait till I read this because you're going to realize that President Trump, President Biden, President Obama, the Clintons, the Bushes, they all made sure that this was in line. Our vision is that by 2025, the military could influence the weather either on a mesoscale or a micro scale in an immediate local area to achieve operational capabilities such as those listed in Table 1. The capability would be the result of a system consisting of highly trained weather force specialists, okay? Assess ports in the Global Weather Network, GWN, where worldwide weather observations and forecasts are obtained near real time from civilians and military sources. A dense, highly accurate local area weather sensing and communication systems, an advanced computer, local area weather modification modeling and prediction capability within the area of responsibility, proven weather modification intervention technologies with feedback capability. Then it explains to you that by 2025, this is what they were envisioning. The weather prediction models in general of mesoscale weather modification models in particular would look like this: a global weather network using satellites and computers. Wow, I guess all that AI stuff we see coming out, there's a purpose for it, right? AI is going to destroy us. I just want you to know, once it has control of all of our nuclear weapons and then all of the UAVs filled with chemicals that can then alter the weather, and then it's also got control of HAARP, they just nuke us like that with microwaves. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Um, NOAA's plans include extensive data gathering programs as the next generation radar, NEXRAD. Did we say NEXRAD? Oh, wait, we did. They were talking about NEXRAD in 1996, you guys, and Doppler weather surveillance systems deployed throughout the US. Remember, those are just weather gathering. They can't hurt you. Data from these sensing systems feed into over 100 forecast centers for processing by advanced weather interactive processing systems, okay, which will provide data communication, processing, and display capabilities for extensive forecasting. Mm-hmm. And since NOAA leased a supercomputer, this is, remember, 1996, and it's already been used to run a hurricane prediction system. So, how would we apply weather modification to military operations, right? Like, how would they do it? Well, they tell us, they say, we envision this will be done by the weather force support element, whose primary mission would be to support the warfighting CINCs with weather modification options, in addition to current forecasting support. That's what they said. Mm-hmm. Yep. That's what they said. So let me get oh, wow, look at this. So you got your little person on the computer, right? The intent, the options, the decision, the air ops center. Then they can deploy, cause and effect, the feedback, and then the forecast. It's all the global world network. It's all the global world network, the new world order. That's all I'm saying, you guys. Okay. So they'll need experts in information center systems schooled in the arts of both offensive and defensive information warfare. That's what they said they're going to need. That's right. Then it goes on. This is really interesting. It says, because I almost fell out of my chair. You guys are just going to pass out. Advances in the science of chaos are critical to this endeavor. I serve a God of order. My God is not a God of what? Chaos. But they said right here on this paper, highlighted in light blue, advances in the science of chaos are critical to this endeavor. Now I know what you're going to say. Well, they don't mean chaos like what you mean, Sam. I think they do, friend, and I'm going to prove that too a little further in. Also, key to the feasibility of such a system is the ability to model the extremely complex nonlinear system of global weather in ways that can accurately predict the outcome of changes in the influencing variables. So they kind of need to have an idea of what they're going to do before they do it and how it's going to come out. All right. Now let's go to page 17. This is all talking about precipitation. All right. But they do say, consequently, we advocate that the Department of Defense explore the many opportunities resulting from development of a capability to influence precipitation. Okay. Now, let me keep going. I need page 17. Oh, and look, fog. Successful fog requires some type of heating or seeding process. Which technique works best for depends on the type of fog encountered. So they can create fog through cold and hot. They talk about it in depth here. They're all their dispersal methods. And what type of fog do you want? How thick do you want it? It even says that they need to use microwaves. They need to, right? So I want you guys to take a minute later and go back and read this, but it says, there it is. Okay, let me find it real quick. It says second fog nanotechnology. Let me find it. Okay, most commonly occurring type of fog. All right, hold on. Lab experiments have shown microwaves to be effective for the heat dispensing of fog. However, results indicate that the energy levels required exceed the U.S. large power density exposure. All right. With regard to seeding techniques, improvements in the materials and delivery methods are not only plausible but likely. Smart materials based on nanotechnology are currently being developed with giga-op computer capability at their core. They could adjust their size to optimal dimensions for a given fog seeding situation and even adjust themselves while performing the process. They might also enhance the dispersal qualities by adjusting buoyancy or by communicating with each other or steering themselves within the fog. When I read all this, I was like, they know what they're doing. They've been doing this to us. This is really interesting. This is page 18. Listen up to this. At any instance, there are 2,000 thunderstorms taking place. In fact, 45,000 thunderstorms, which contain heavy rain, hail, microburst, wind shear, and lightning, form daily. Anyone who has flown frequently on commercial aircraft have probably noticed the extremes that pilots go to avoid thunderstorms. Okay. Let me find the rest of it for you. So it goes on to talk about how they can use thunderstorms. All right, so let me go all the way to page 27. I'm almost done with this, you guys. But I just want to show you how now they're going to start talking about the ionosphere and why the ionosphere is so important. We need to modify the ionosphere to disrupt communications. All right. They're telling you induced ionospheric modifications may influence or even disrupt the operation of radio systems relying on propagation through the modified region. The controlled generation or accelerated Ionosphere disturbances may be used to produce new paths otherwise unavailable. So they're telling you we need to disrupt the ionosphere. What page was that? It's hard with this one. I liked it better on my phone. It's hard to see. This is 22. I need to make it to 27. But anyway, it's going to show you all of this. Artificial ionospheric mirrors. You have a 5 millihertz, an 8 millihertz, a 14, and a 12. You have receiver stations, transmission station, and a ground-based AIM generator. Now, the cool thing about the mirrors is they can create an artificial ionospheric mirror point-to-point communication. They use mirrors. Now, I know we're not talking about religion right now. We're talking about science. But don't you think it's funny that during the Mormon temple marriage ceremony, the husband and wife face each other and there's nothing but mirrors behind them? And I've told you guys before that the occult uses mirrors. There's something here. It says AIM based radar could be operated at a frequency chosen to optimize target detection rather than be limited by prevailing ionospheric conditions. It says the possibility of controlling the radar's wave to mitigate clutter effects could result in reliable detection of cruise missiles and other low observable targets. I'm just saying, this stuff gets deep. Oh, and look, there's the ship. Here's the AIM, the mirror, right? And it's showing you how they can use it to disrupt and or pinpoint. Now, right? It just, guys, they're messing with our ionosphere with HARP like you have never seen before. All right, page 27 to 28. All right, while most weather modification efforts rely on the existence of certain pre-existing conditions, it may be possible to produce some weather effects artificially. For instance, virtual weather, let me say it again, virtual weather could be created by influencing the weather information received by an end user. Their perception values or images from global or local meteorological information systems could differ from what actually is out there happening. They could create a fake AI storm and send that information to somebody to force them to reroute troops. The difference in perception could lead the end user to make degraded operational decisions. Nanotechnology also offers possibilities for creating simulated weather. A cloud or several clouds of microscopic computer particles all communicating with each other and with a larger control system could provide tremendous capabilities. Interconnected, atmospheric, buoyant, and having navigation capabilities in 3 dimensions, these clouds could be designed to have a wide range of properties. So you look up, and what you see is not actually a cloud. It is a nanotechnology. It is a cloud made up of teeny tiny robots. And you perceive it as a cloud. Let that sink in. Just let that get in there. Yeah. Yes. Yep. I know. I know. Okay. One major advantage of using simulated weather to achieve a desired effect is that, unlike other approaches, it makes what are otherwise the results of deliberate actions appear to be the consequences of natural weather phenomena. So, in other words, we create a storm And you guys sit at home and you watch your news meteorologists literally tell you that this is climate change, that you driving to work every day, or you running your heater, or you burning coal has caused this storm to wipe out your entire state. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the whole time, it was a deliberate action that they made to look like a natural weather phenomenon. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Weather affects everything we do, and weather modification can enhance our ability to dominate aerospace environment. It gives the commander tools to shape the battlefield. Mm, yep. A pilot program known as Project Popeye, conducted in 1966, attempted to extend the monsoon season in order to increase the amount of mud along the Ho Chi Minh Trail, whereby reducing enemy movements. A silver iodide nuclei agent was dispersed from a WC 130, F4, and an A-13 aircraft into the clouds over portions of the trail winding from North Vietnam through Cambodia into South Vietnam. Positive results during this initial program led to continued operations from 1967 to 1972. While the effects of this program remain disputed, some scientists believe it resulted in a significant reduction in the enemy's ability to bring supplies into South Vietnam along the trail. All right. That was, again, Project Popeye. Let's keep going because this is cool. Chapter 5 says, how do we get from here to there? Right. So they're going to tell you that artificial weather technologies do not currently exist in 1996. But as they develop, the importance of their potential application will rise rapidly. Okay. So it says here anticipated proliferation of surveillance technologies in the future will make the ability to deny surveillance increasingly valuable. In such an environment, clouds made of smart particles could provide premium capability. You could be out lying on the beach and all of a sudden get blessed shade from a cloud to realize that it's made of nanoparticles and you're being spied on by the US government. Welcome to the future. Yeah. Now it's showing you, right, how important these different programs are. AW equals artificial weather. Now in 1996, it wasn't important. Look at 2025. It's all the way to the top. So is SWM, which is space weather modification. That's what they're doing with the ionosphere and HARP. Mm-hmm. And then SM is also at the top. That's storm modification, if you're curious. And then, of course, PM is straight to the top too. And that is precipitation modification. And then, of course, don't forget CW, that's counter weather. That's all the way up there too. In fact, everything but F and C, which was fog and cloud modification, they expected everything else to be extremely highly important by 2025. Yeah. Yep. I'm just saying, you guys, this is absolutely insane. And this is what they're doing. It's what they've been talking about doing. And then here's what I want you to understand before we get into HARP. Why is the ionosphere even important and what is it? The ionosphere is the part of the Earth's atmosphere beginning at an altitude 30 miles above the soil. So 30 miles straight up, the ionosphere begins and it extends to about 1,200 miles out into what they call space. This region is layers of free electrically charged particles that transmit, refract, and reflect radio waves. Okay. That is how they send signals, is through the ionosphere. All right. Let me keep going. You can look at all that because it's very important. It says, in summary, the ionosphere's inherent reflectivity is a natural gift that humans have used to create long-range communications connecting distant points on the globe. God gave us that, and they're literally trying to destroy it. All right, let me keep going. I'm almost there, friends. All right, let me keep going. All right, here we go. I need Appendix B. Research to better understand and predict ionospheric effects. According to Spacecast 2020 study titled Space Weather Support for Communications, the major factors limiting our ability to observe and accurately forecast space weather is the current ionospheric sensing capability, the density and frequency of observations of the ionosphere, sophistication and accuracy of ionosphere models, current scientific understandings of the physics of the ionosphere. All right. So they recommend that we get a system of sounders and sensing devices installed by the DoD with commercial satellites, right? And we study it. Yeah, I wanted to share that with you. So that is where HARP basically got the freedom. Now, this is the chaos science they're talking about. Basically, everything starts and finishes. Chaos is a word that evokes fear, confusion, and unpredictability in everyday life. Chaos seems to mean disorder, right? But it says this is the essence of chaos theory, the study of complex systems whose behavior appears random, but is governed by underlying patterns and rules. At first glance, it seems to be a paradox. How can disorder hide order? How can something unpredictable follow rules? To understand this, we must step into the world where math, nature, and imagination intertwine. The chaos theory is not a modern invention. Its seeds were planted century ago, right? Isaac Newton, blah, blah, blah. So I want to show you something. Central to chaos theory is the concept of attractors. An attractor is a set of states toward which a system tends to evolve. In predictable systems, attractors may be simple points or cycles. In chaotic systems, attractors take on complex fractal shapes known as strange attractors. Keep that in your mind when I show you some of these pictures. I'm fixing to show you this, okay? So this is what NOAA put out in 2025, February, about atmospheric rivers. They said this is what it is, right? The water vapor, this is California, of course, got to go up and over. And it's basically a river in the sky, right? Like a river in the sky that transports most of the water vapor outside of the tropics. While atmospheric rivers can vary greatly in size and strength, the average atmospheric river carries an amount of water vapor roughly equivalent to the average flow of water at the mouth of the Mississippi River. Okay. Strong atmospheric rivers transport 15 times that amount. Now, funny thing, they're saying that these are beginning to get stronger. They don't know why. So I want to show you this quick clip.
You can see that we've got a pretty good stretch of moisture stretching all the way from the tropics up into the Gulf of Alaska. That is an atmospheric river. It's transporting a lot of moisture from the subtropics all the way up into the Gulf of Alaska. Fortunately, it's not aimed at anybody, so nobody's getting deluged with the Pineapple Express. It's just dropping harmlessly in the ocean. This is what the atmospheric river looks like in a computer model. See those yellows and greens? That's the main band of moisture heading up into the Gulf of Alaska. Those brown areas are actually drier areas in between. But if we put this into motion, now this is Tuesday afternoon, same as the satellite image. We put that into motion. You can see we're in kind of a drying area, which so things are going to be drier as we head into Wednesday. We're not expecting much except for maybe a couple of stray showers. And then as we head on into Thursday, you can see the atmospheric river moves over that ridge of high pressure out there in the Pacific and kind of moves through and just brushes us on Thursday. Doesn't really give us all that much. And then as we head into Friday, a little bit more direct hit. So we're going to be seeing a little bit more rainfall. And then as we head into the weekend, another break as we head into Saturday before we get another push of rain kind of moving through very quickly on Sunday. More drying, and then we see actually a lot wetter pattern kind of push into us as we head towards the first part of next week. This is for Monday and Tuesday. With all those brush bys by atmospheric rivers, you think we might be worried about some flooding, but the good news is it doesn't look like it's going to be a problem. The University of California, San Diego, Scripps Institute has developed an atmospheric river scale, kind of like a hurricane scale, Cat 1 to Cat 5. In the case of atmospheric
By the way, this was put out December 2nd, 2025. Boy, weren't they wrong.
rivers, it's AR1 to AR5, where 3, 2, and 1 aren't necessarily destructive. They actually bring us beneficial rain. And there's a combination of how much water is flowing in the atmospheric river and how long it stays over you. And so for the next 5 or 6 days, it looks like we're going to be basically, as you can see, AR3s and down. So we should be in pretty good shape. That'll just add to our rainfall totals. And that's, in fact, how most places along the west coast of the United States get most of their annual rainfall is out of these beneficial atmospheric rivers.
Okay. So what if they used a microwave or a satellite to hold it in place? Oh, look, Elon Musk put this out. The future is going to be amazing with AI and robots enabling sustainable and abundance for all. Sustainable abundance for all. All right. So this is the atmospheric river. Saturday, December 6th to 4 p.m., December 11th, that caused widespread flooding across the Pacific Northwest. Okay. Look at this sucker. You ready? Let's start it over. Look at that. This is Washington, Oregon, California, okay? Crazy. All right, the United States are currently underwater, and there's no, 3 U.S. states are currently underwater. Okay, so let me pull it up. Look at this. This is what the fall should look like. This is what they do. Let me show you that again. In the state of Washington, this is what the fall should look like. This is what they do look like. All right, Montana, bridges are collapsing. This broke my heart. This is Washington. It's a whole house. That is a propane tank. This is Oregon. This is somebody's rooftop they're sitting on. That's December 12th, 2025. This is the Cowlitz River, Packwood, Washington. Hundreds of thousands of residents are under evacuation orders. Washington, Montana, and Oregon. All right, let's keep going. All right. So what if I said that in the Pacific Northwest, they've been spraying the crap out of people, but they're doing it because they want to turn it into a smart county. They are pursuing establishment of Smart County. All right. This was put in May 23rd, 2017. Everett, Washington, they announced that it will pursue establishment of a smart county, potentially making it the first in the state of Washington and the second in the nation. The concept centers on deploying technology within all areas of the county, including rural and urban areas. It would draw innovative ideas to the region from both the private and public sectors to spur economic growth, accessibility, and connectivity for all residents. Yeah. Yep. They're going to lead the way, it says. They're going to lead the way. This is a deliberately orchestrated weather manipulation to keep the mass majority of stupid sheep believing in the ultimate hoax of climate change. A term used as a code word for weather modification to this area with increasing abnormal activities that make oceans rise and strong tides of water. Heartbreaking. The levees were breaking. It's so heartbreaking. I've lived through a flood like this in 2016. Weather can be directed by tapping into the low and high pressure cells that revolve around the globe. Shift one of these cells to the north, and the jet stream delivers atmospheric rivers as directed. The Pacific Northwest is being flooded because they want the reservoirs that create hydroelectric power full. They need more electricity because of AI data centers that are being built within close proximity to all of the hydroelectric dams. This will end up raising the prices of electricity for every resident, every consumer, especially the ones located on the coastline, which is the majority of people in the Pacific Northwest. The battle between AI and humans is underway. Now, I want to tell you something. As Earth rotates, HARP will slice across geomagnetic fluxes, a donut-shaped spool of magnetic strings like longitude meridians on maps. HARP may not cut these strings in Gaia's magnetic mantle, but will pulse each thread with harsh, out of harmony high frequencies. These noisy impulses will vibrate geomagnetic flux lines, sending vibrations all the way through the geomagnetic web, even as a single thunderstorm's lightning flashes emit pulses felt globally by sensitive sensors. The image that I want you to think about is a spider's web. An insect lands on the web. It vibrates, alerts the spider that there is potential prey. HARP will be a man-made microwave finger poking at the web, sending out confusing signals, tearing threads apart. Effects of this interference of Gaia's geomagnetic HARP are unknown, and I suspect barely thought of. Even if thought of, the intent of HARP is to learn how to exploit any effects, not to play in tune to a global symphony. They're not here to make sure that your well-being or the weather's well-being. It's really bad, you guys. Californians, when they realized the government has been doing weather modification all along, but when it got out of control, they called it climate change. Let that sink in. The sky buttholes have been spraying the crap out of Oregon and Washington for weeks. What a shock we have these weather events. It's also been 60 degrees in December, and that's not normal. The Department of Defense funding these programs can go blankety blank themselves. The Pacific Northwest is getting hammered by what they're calling an atmospheric river. But let's call it what it is. It's geoengineered weather warfare. Radar showing bizarre beams and ripples in skies north of Seattle with very unnatural waves and trails. Guys, this is not what clouds look like. Watch them. Just keep watching. You see them? That's not how clouds are supposed to be, guys. That's all radar doing that. Look at them. Look at the striations in that. And remember, it may not even be a regular cloud. It might be a nano cloud. So this was in 2024, but it's another good example of what's happening with these atmospheric rivers. Now, this is HARP technology. Watch this. Entire towns are underwater as widespread historic floodings grip Washington, caused by days of heavy rain that push rivers to levels never seen before.
Our shops flooded, our outbuildings.
What's happened is three exceptional events in a row.
There's destroying middle-class America. It allows them to manipulate the jet stream, heat up the metal particles with HARP to change wind patterns, which can create droughts and floods. And this is what I read to you guys. Weather as a force multiplier, owning the weather in 2025. Watch this.
Once we achieve this weather control, who is going to be the man who decides what kind of weather it's going to be?
You can say what you want, but I've been doing this since Maui, and I know what they can do. Watch this. Friends, those are frequencies. Clouds don't look like this, guys. People are becoming aware worldwide. So this is hard.
Antenna can detect an object the size of receive modules, and this antenna can detect an object the size of a baseball at a range of 2,500 miles. That is why I say this thing can project all that power into a pinpoint beam, totally computer controlled. The dome is 120 foot diameter. The power source is 3.6 megawatt generators for a total of almost 22 megawatts. And this HARP platform has a tow ship to move it around, so that 22 megawatts is not actually designed to go into the engines. That is designed to go into the transmitter unit. Other U.S. Navy ships have powerful microwave transmitters. This is the U.S. Navy ship Howard O. Lorenzen. It looks small, but it's actually 534 feet long. Each phased array, the boxes on the top of the deck, is a phased array transmitter, synthetic aperture radar, whatever you want to call it, weighs 250 tons, and there's a crew of 88 on board. This is a gigantic ionospheric heater again.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Oh, this one's cool. Watch. This proves what basically the chemicals that are being sprayed into the atmosphere, which again, growing under a poison sky, I tell you what the chemicals are, they're releasing metal too. And then they turn HARP on, and then HARP controls it. So this is Alaska, the HARP array. Well, I think this one's Alaska, but like I said, there are multiple ones around the world now. They can turn them on together, you guys, at the same time. This is terrible. This is what they're doing is terrible. Yeah. So see, the electromagnetic waves cause the clouds, look, to form up the way that they do. And then, they turn on the HARP and they can create a tornado. That's not, they can create earthquakes. It's coming. The Bible told us that there would be earthquakes and crazy weather, right? Like God said it. Jesus said it. He said, "This is when I'm coming back." HARP is now much more than just an ionospheric energy charging facility constructed 30 years ago. It is now a global capability with locations not only in numerous countries, but also situated at sea. Yeah, they're everywhere.
So there are 45,000 transmit receive modules, and this antenna can detect an object.
I saw this one was outside of Hawaii right before Maui. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Oh, these are crazy. Watch this. You see them? Look at them. The spacing. So you got to imagine the wave that would cause clouds to group like this, right? You've got to be able to visualize that. Look at that. So that's waves, you guys. Look at this. Look at this. Look at them. I mean, it's so obvious what it is, right? And then they use stratospheric aerosol injection with ELF, extremely low frequency radio waves, and you can see it. You can actually see it happen. You can watch it happen. Look. Look at the waves. Look at that. It's crazy. In Brazil, university concluded that these right here, right, the HARP, can cause earthquakes, cyclones, and strong localized heating. Want to know why the temperature is going up? Because they're punching holes with heaters, ionic heaters through the ionosphere. All right, so I went to the NOAA Library Weather and Climate Collection information page. And I just, out of curiosity, went to 2025, 2026 to see in the Pacific West area what geoengineering had been signed up for. Because I found an article today that proved that every one of these companies does not turn their geo weather modification information in. They just don't even tell anybody what they're doing. But there was one in particular that did in Idaho. I'm going to show it to you. You're going to recognize this name. No, there's nothing on this one. Hold on. Nope, here it is. Everybody see this? Rainmaker technology. If you've been watching me for any amount of time, you know back in July of 2025, Rainmaker technology flooded Texas and the girls' camps. Remember? Down the Guadalupe River? It's the same company. Look when they started spraying. Date first actual weather modification activity, October 1st, 2025. They are seeding glaciers with aerial unmanned drones using aerosol dispersion systems. Payload on each drone capable of releasing 3.5, can't see it, of aerosolized dry silver iodide. Rainmaker technology right there in Idaho, spraying all over the place. This is where they're going to be spraying. Charlie Alpha, Charlie Bravo. You better start getting really concerned, folks. This crap isn't just happening. This is not accidental. Oh, here's another. Oh, this is the one I found earlier too. Blue Mountains, Oregon is flooding right now. October 1st, 2025 to April of 2026, they have geoengineering going on. Do you want to know what company it is again? Watch. Rainmaker Technology in Oregon. Leslie, this is for you, baby. When I found this, I thought, oh, Leslie is going to just know what to do with this, right? And here's where they're going to be spraying starting in October, and now that whole area is flooding. Folks, we have to get to a point where we're not too afraid to say we see you. I just showed you that in 2017, Washington County, that county up there, was going to be the first county in Washington state to be totally smart. That was 2017. I just proved to you that the United States Air Force wrote, what was it, 48 pages about weather modification as a weapon, owning the weather by what year? 2025. I just showed you what HARP can do. I just showed you Rainmaker, the same company that was weather cloud seeding and weather modifying days before Texas flooded in July, started seeding in Oregon and Idaho 2 months ago. Same stinking company. What a coincidence, friends. What a coincidence. I'm just saying, so many coincidences in this life, right? One might compare the abnormal energetic state of the earth and its atmosphere to a car battery, which has become overcharged with the normal flow of energy jammed up, resulting in hot spots, electrical arcing, physical cracks, and general turbulence as the pent-up energy tries to find some place to go. In a second analogy, unless we desire the death of our planet, we must end the production of unstable particles, which are generating a fever inside of the earth. A first priority to prevent this disaster would be to shut down all nuclear power plants and end the testing of atomic weapons, electronic warfare, and Star Wars. They light up the aurora borealis artificially, but when they light it up completely is when they kill off different ionospheric layers. They are destroying what is protecting you and I. Meanwhile, the military builds up its biggest ionospheric heater yet to deliberately create more instabilities in a huge plasma layer, the ionosphere, and to rev up the energy level of charged particles. I want to read one more thing to you guys, and then I've got to go because I am so sleepy. In describing the ionosphere as a delicate and balanced system, this lady shared her mental picture of it, a soap bubble-like sphere surrounding Earth's atmosphere, with movement swirling over the surface of the bubble. If you've ever watched a large bubble closely, you see these rainbow-like patterns flowing all over it. Then you see like a black spot where the wavelengths of light are so short that the bubble doesn't show any longer, but it has not burst yet. Then a hole forms and it pops. Project planners who experiment with the ionosphere do not agree with our model of what it could be. But some people do strongly believe the ionosphere works like a bubble. And when human activities make massive holes in the real ionosphere, the holes at the north and south poles migrate just like the shapes on the bubble. This is how a dramatic loss of the ozone layer happens to appear over Australia, for example. Guys, they're destroying it. Now you may think, well, Sam, if they destroy it, they're going to destroy themselves. I don't think they care. I have so much that I want to share with you guys that I've been learning about these Black Ops projects. We are so close to Jesus coming back. Friends, we have to be able to explain to our loved ones what is actually happening with the weather. Because 90% of Americans are going to turn their TV on, they're going to hear climate change and atmospheric river, and they're going to believe it. But they're seeing it in front of their face and denying the truth to themselves. And that is truly what insanity looks like. But as for me and my family, we will serve the Lord up until the end. I love you guys so much. Thank you very much. Tomorrow, I'm going to show you some different things I want to show here, but I'm going to show you how just a few days before, or a few weeks before this atmospheric river hit the Pacific Northwest, they were spraying stratospheric aerosol spraying from ships in the Pacific, how they admit it. And then they turn around and they say, it's a conspiracy. We're not doing it, but they are. And I'm going to keep exposing them. And I thank all of you that have been walking this out with me, because when Maui was burned by dew weapons and I went to Maui, I will never forget the first time I saw radar manipulate weather. And I cried that night. I had no idea. For some people, this may be very new. It may feel very overwhelming. So I will link Angels Don't Play This Harp, as well as Growing Under a Poison Sky, and the products, as well as description of the video, so you can get some information underneath you to help you learn. I'll link every article, everything that I showed you here. It'll be in description of video for you to take your time and go through it before tomorrow, because tomorrow it's meat and potatoes, baby. Today was milk. Tomorrow, meat and potatoes. I'll see you there. Love you guys.